Hello and welcome back, dear friend. It is so good to be with you again as we return to our quiet, hidden valley. Since our last visit, the deep sleep of winter has held the land in a silent, white embrace. The sun has been a distant, gentle visitor, and the days have been short and hushed. The little trolls, in their tall, round, blue house, have been dreaming their long, restorative dreams. But a change is coming. It is not a sudden change, but a slow, gentle, inevitable one. Deep beneath the snow, the earth is beginning to stir. The sun has started to linger a little longer each afternoon, its light holding a new and hopeful warmth. Tonight's long, peaceful story is about that miraculous moment of awakening. It is a story of sleepy yawns and stretching limbs, of the first drops of melting snow, and the quiet, magical music that calls the world out of its slumber. We will be there for the very first signs of spring, and follow a gentle mystery to its source. So let yourself sink into the comfort of your bed. Allow the world outside to fade away. There is nothing you need to do, nothing to solve. My voice and our story will be your gentle guide, leading you slowly, softly, down into a place of deep and wonderful rest. Before we feel the first warmth of the spring sun, let us create that warmth and comfort right where you are. Settle into your favorite position for sleep, a position where you feel completely held and completely secure. Take a slow, quiet breath in, imagining the air is cool and clean, like the very first scent of spring. And as you breathe out, release it with a long, soft sigh, letting go of every care. Breathe in again, feeling your chest gently rise, a feeling of quiet hope and expansion. And breathe out, letting your body grow heavier, softer, sinking more deeply into the surface beneath you. Allow your face to soften. Relax your jaw, your cheeks, the tiny muscles around your eyes. Let your shoulders feel heavy and loose, your arms still and peaceful at your sides. This feeling of gentle ease flows down through your body, through your torso, your legs, all the way to the tips of your toes. You are wonderfully heavy, wonderfully calm, and completely at ease. Your mind, once busy, is now becoming as still and clear as a drop of morning dew. You are ready for the valley to wake up. The first sign of the change was not a sound, but a smell. Inside the tall blue house, where a deep, hibernating stillness had reigned for months, a new scent began to subtly perfume the air. It was a faint, clean smell of damp earth and wet stone, the smell of life stirring. In his attic room, under a mountain of quilts, the little troll moved for the first time in weeks. It wasn't a conscious movement, but a deep, instinctual shift, a long, slow, sleepy stretch that unfolded under the covers. His sleep, which had been a bottomless, black ocean, was now becoming a gentler sea, with the first light of dawn touching its surface. Downstairs, a similar stirring was happening. The great mound of bedding in the master bedroom gave a deep, collective sigh. The mother troll, deep in her slumber, wrinkled her nose. The smell of the waking world was starting to permeate their dreams. The second sign was a sound. Plink, plink, plink. Outside, on the southern side of the house, a long, elegant icicle that had hung from the roof all winter had finally felt the persistent warmth of the returning sun. A single drop of water formed at its tip, clung there for a moment, shimmering, and then let go. It fell, landing on the wooden porch railing below with a soft, musical plink. Plink, plink, plank, plink. It was the first percussion in a world that had only known the whisper of wind for months. A tiny, humble rhythm, the heartbeat of the thaw. This sound, more than anything, traveled through the thick walls of the house and into the sleeping minds of the trolls. It was a signal. It was time. The little troll's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, he did not know where he was. The room was dark, but not the deep, absolute dark of midwinter. It was a softer dark, with a pale gray light filtering through the round window. He yawned. A magnificent, jaw-cracking yawn that seemed to last a full minute. He felt impossibly stiff, as though his joints were made of old wood. He sat up, the heavy quilts pooling around his waist, and looked around the familiar, beloved space of his room. He felt a deep, profound hunger, a hunger for pancakes. Slowly, carefully, he swung his legs out of bed. His paws felt strange and tender as they touched the cold wooden floor. He stood up, stretching his arms high above his head, feeling the satisfying creaks and pops as his body remembered how to move. He padded to the door and listened. From downstairs he heard a similar sound of slow, sleepy movement. A heavy sigh, a groan, a soft thump as someone else's feet found the floor. He made his way down the winding staircase. The air in the house was thick and stale, smelling of dust and sleep. The living room was a landscape of shrouded, sleeping furniture. But as he reached the bottom step, the kitchen door creaked open, and the mother troll emerged, wrapped in her winter dressing gown, her eyes still half closed. She saw him, and a slow, warm, sleepy smile spread across her face. "Good morning, my dear," she said, her voice husky. Or, I suppose it is a good spring. Soon, the father troll joined them, his top hat already perched, a little crookedly, on his head. He was leaning against a door frame, yawning with such magnificent force that his hat nearly fell off. There were no long conversations. There was only a shared, sleepy understanding. The three of them moved into the kitchen, a comfortable, silent dance of long-practiced routine. The father troll, with great effort, rekindled the fire in the great stove, his hands moving with a slow certainty. Soon, the soft, welcome crackle of burning wood filled the kitchen, the first true sound of the house waking up. The mother troll, meanwhile, was moving with a deep, instinctual purpose, gathering flour, eggs, and the very last of the summer's jam from the pantry. The clink of the ceramic bowl, the whisking of the batter, the sizzle as the first pancake hit the hot pan. These were the sounds of life returning to the blue house. They ate in a kind of contented, reverent silence. Great stacks of warm, fluffy pancakes, slathered in butter and sweet, sun-drenched jam. The food was more than just sustenance. It was a reconnection with the world, with summer, with being awake. After their breakfast, a new energy began to fill them. It was time for the great spring airing. The father troll went to the heavy front door, unbolting the many locks that had kept the winter storms at bay. With a great, collective heave, he and the little troll pushed it open. A wave of cool, fresh, damp air flooded the house. It was a shocking, wonderful feeling. The smell of melting snow, of wet bark, of the promises that the earth held just under its surface. One by one, they went through the house, throwing open every shutter and every window. Thump, whoosh, thump, creak. With each window opened, a new rectangle of pale spring light sliced into the dusty dimness of the house. They pulled the white dust cloths off the furniture, shaking them out in great billowing clouds into the fresh air. The house, which had been holding its breath all winter, was finally exhaling. The little troll's job was to take the heavy winter rugs outside. He dragged them, one by one, onto the porch and hung them over the railing. Then he fetched the rug beater and began the satisfying work of hitting them. Whoomp, whoomp, poof. With each strike, a cloud of winter's dust would explode into the air, dancing for a moment in the pale sunlight before disappearing. It was a rhythm of renewal, a drumbeat for the waking world. As he worked, he began to listen. The world was full of new sounds. There was the constant, gentle drip, drip, drip of the melting eaves. From the forest, he could hear the cheerful, tentative song of the first returning finch. Far away, there was the rumble of a small avalanche high in the lonely mountains as the sun loosened winter's grip. The whole valley was a symphony of soft, trickling, waking sounds. But one sound was missing. He stopped his rug beating and stood very still, tilting his head to listen. The river was silent. In summer, its cheerful gurgle was the constant, reassuring background music of the valley. But now there was nothing. A great, profound silence from where its melody should be. He left the porch and walked down the damp path towards the wooden bridge. The snow was patchy now, with great swathes of dark, muddy earth showing through. Tiny, bright green shoots, no bigger than his smallest claw, were bravely pushing their way up through the cold ground. When he reached the bridge, he understood the silence. The river was still a solid, unbroken ribbon of thick, grayish-white ice. It was frozen solid from bank to bank, while the land around it was waking up. The very heart of the valley was still caught in the deepest part of winter's dream. He stood there for a long time, watching it. It felt wrong, unnatural. There was a tension in the air, a feeling of something held back, of a great energy waiting to be released. He walked back to the house, a sense of gentle disquiet in his heart. The river is still asleep, he announced to his parents, who were now polishing the great ceramic stove until it shone. It always is at first, the father troll said, not looking up from his work. It is the last and slowest to wake. It needs more sun than the land does. It takes its time, the mother troll added with a gentle smile. The river is very old. It does not like to be hurried. The little troll nodded, but he wasn't entirely satisfied. He went about his day, helping his family. They tidied, they cleaned, they aired. They brought the summer furniture out onto the porch, wiping it down. They made a simple, fresh lunch of bread and cheese. It was a lovely, domestic, peaceful day. But all the while, the little troll found himself listening for the one sound that did not come. The silence of the river felt like a missing heartbeat. As the afternoon sun began its slow descent, casting long, watery shadows, the little troll made a decision. He couldn't just wait. He felt a gentle, insistent pull, a feeling that he needed to understand. "I am going for a walk," he said to his mother, who was sitting on the porch steps, knitting in the pale sun, up the river, to see where the waking has stopped. His mother looked at him, her eyes full of a deep understanding. She saw the gentle worry and the quiet curiosity on his face. "That is a fine idea," she said. "The world is full of sleepy things on a day like this. Perhaps one of them needs a gentle nudge. Take a warm cloak and be home before dark." So the little troll set off. He walked past the bridge and took the path that followed the river's edge, heading upstream towards the mountains. The further he walked from his house, the deeper the snow became. The valley floor, warmed by the open sky, was thawing quickly. But here, in the shadow of the forest, winter still held on more tightly. The silence of the river was his constant companion. It was strange to walk beside it and hear nothing but the soft crunch of his own paws in the snow and the whisper of the breeze in the bare birch branches. The air grew colder as he climbed higher. The smell was different too, less of damp earth and more of cold stone and pine. He passed great, mossy boulders with long beards of ice still clinging to their northern faces. The world felt older here, more primal. He walked for a very long time. The journey was slow and meandering, his paws sometimes sinking deep into the wet, heavy snow. He felt a great sense of solitude, but it was not a lonely feeling. It was a peaceful solitude, as if the whole world were holding its breath with him. After what felt like an hour or more, he noticed the path was becoming less of a path and more of a faint trail used only by woodland creatures. He was getting close to the foothills of the lonely mountains, and then he heard a sound. It was not the sound of the river flowing. It was a different sound, a faint, ethereal, high-pitched humming. It sounded like the world's most delicate glass wind chimes, singing a sad, quiet song. He followed the sound, his heart beating a little faster with curiosity. The trail opened up, and he came to a place he had never seen before. It was a hidden, circular basin, a great stone bowl carved by the mountains, and here was the source of the river in the valley, a magnificent, wide waterfall that cascaded down a sheer rock face. But the waterfall was frozen solid. It was a breathtaking sight, a great, silent sculpture of ice, capturing the memory of motion. Ripples, splashes, and torrents were all frozen in midair, a palace of milky white and crystal clear ice. And trapped within the ice, the little troll could see shimmering, faint shapes, the source of the humming song. He crept closer. Peering into the translucent heart of the frozen waterfall, he could see them. Tiny, humanoid forms, made of light and water, with long, flowing hair that looked like seaweed. They were no bigger than his paw. They were huddled together, shivering, their faint lights pulsing in time with their sad humming music. The river sprites, the very spirit of the water. They were trapped. The song they were humming was the song of the river, but it was too quiet, too weak to break the last, deepest frost. They were waiting for an accompaniment. They were waiting for another melody to join theirs, a melody from the warm, waking world. The little troll felt a deep sense of sympathy for them. He wanted to help, but how? He had no music. He sat on a cold, mossy stone opposite the frozen waterfall, just watching them, his heart full. He must have sat there for a long time, lost in thought, because the light began to change. The pale gold of the afternoon was deepening into the soft rose pink of twilight. And that's when he heard it. From far down the trail behind him, a sound he he knew so well his heart ached with happiness. A familiar, lonely, hopeful tune played on a simple harmonica. It was the Wanderer. The little troll's head snapped up. Coming up the path, his green hat at a jaunty angle and his old harmonica to his lips, was his dearest friend, finally returned from his long winter journey south. The Wanderer saw the little troll, and his eyes crinkled in a warm smile. He finished his tune with a flourish and lowered his instrument. "Hello, little friend," he said, his voice as calm and steady as ever. "I see I have returned just in time for the great thaw, though it seems a bit behind schedule this year." His wise eyes drifted to the frozen waterfall and the faint humming light within it. He nodded slowly, a deep understanding on his face. "Ah," he said, "I see. They are waiting. They are trapped," the little troll said. "They are singing, but their song is not strong enough." The Wanderer looked at the sad, shimmering sprites, then at his harmonica, and then at the little troll. "Sometimes," he said softly, "the oldest magic just needs a little reminder from a friend." He stepped up to the edge of the basin, raised his harmonica to his lips, and began to play. He did not play a loud or fast tune. He played the song of spring. It was a melody full of soft, tentative notes at first, like the first drop of melting snow. Then it grew a little stronger, with little runs that sounded like trickling streams finding their way through moss. It wove through the high, humming song of the sprites, wrapping around their sad melody, giving it strength and warmth. And a miracle began to happen. As the harmonica's song filled the basin, the frozen waterfall started to change. It didn't crack or shatter. It began to chime. The ice seemed to grow clear as glass, and the high humming sound of the sprites grew louder, more joyful, turning from a hum into a true ringing song. The music of the harmonica and the music of the sprites became one powerful melody. Tiny shimmering veins of water began to trace paths across the surface of the ice. The chime grew louder, 1,000 tiny ice bells ringing in harmony. The great frozen sculpture began to dissolve, not into water, but into light and mist and sound. The sprites, freed from their icy prison, danced in the air for a moment, swirling patterns of joyful turquoise light before dissolving into the very first rush of meltwater. With a deep, gurgling, joyous roar, the waterfall burst forth. A great, life-affirming torrent of fresh, cold, clear water crashed down into the stone basin, waking the river from its long sleep. The silence was broken. The river was alive. The little troll and the Wanderer stood side by side, watching the powerful, beautiful display. The first wave of free water rushed past them, down the riverbed, on its journey to the rest of the valley. The journey home was a completely different experience. They walked beside a living, breathing river. Its happy, gurgling song was a constant companion, filling the air with the true, finished music of spring. The silence was over. The valley was finally, completely awake. By the time they saw the warm, welcoming lights of the tall blue house, the night was full of stars, and the river was singing a triumphant song. That night, As the little troll lay in his own bed, in his fresh, clean room, the world outside was transformed. The window was open, just a crack, and the air that drifted in was cool and damp, carrying the unmistakable sound of the newly awakened river. It was the most comforting sound in the world. The heartbeat of his home returned. He felt a deep, peaceful sense of accomplishment and a weariness in his limbs that was satisfying and right. He had walked a long way, and he had helped the world to wake up. As he closed his eyes, the gentle, flowing, gurgling song of the river became the rhythm of his own slow breathing, carrying him effortlessly, peacefully, into the deepest, most refreshing sleep of the new year. And now, you too can let that gentle, flowing sound guide you. Imagine the sound of a peaceful, flowing river, carrying away any thoughts, any worries, letting them float downstream, further and further away, until they are gone. Your mind is becoming clear. Your body is heavy with rest. You are floating on a calm, gentle current, drifting slowly, softly, down, 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 into a deep and wonderfully restorative sleep. The valley is awake, and now it is your time to rest. Sleep now. Just sleep. Thank you for joining us on this long walk to awaken the spring. I hope the melody of the river has brought you peace and quieted your mind. The valley will always be here, changing with the seasons, ready to welcome you whenever you need a moment of gentle escape. If you felt at home here tonight, I would be so honored if you would subscribe and join our quiet little community. But now, the story is done. The journey is over, and it is time for complete and total rest. May your night be calm. May your sleep be deep and unbroken. And may you awaken feeling as fresh and new as a spring morning. Sleep well.